welcome to Introduction to Philosophy, Spring 2021 edition at the University of South Carolina, Aiken. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to introduce you to the syllabus, give you a little bit of an overview of the course, go over some course parameters, procedural matters, some policy aspects. Further, I'll go into the assignments for the course and where to find some things on Blackboard. That being said, let's get into the syllabus. When you go into Blackboard, it should look like this. And over here, you'll see syllabus and schedule. Click on syllabus and schedule. And here it is, the syllabus. Click on that. It should go ahead and open up for you right here. Of course, you can download it from here, print it from here. I'm going to open this up in Adobe Acrobat to read it more easily. All right, here we are looking at the syllabus. There's some information on the header on the first page that I don't want to go over just so you know that it's there. There's some obvious things here, like the name of the course and what university this is and what semester it is. But I want to point out my office hours are here. Now, I will not physically be in my office for office hours, but I will be available at this time, about 11 to noon, every Monday for Zoom meetings and so forth. So if you want to meet online and discuss things about the class, we can totally do that. Okay, or by appointment. If that time doesn't work for you, we can totally set up an appointment and meet. This is my office phone number, so I probably won't be in there very often. That's it if you want to leave a message. Voicemails that I do receive in my office automatically go to my email. So you can still leave messages there and I will get them. And if for some reason I am in my office, there it is, HNSS 206B. But most importantly, my email's up here, thomasb@usca.edu. All right, well, let's get into the course. Introduction to Philosophy. So we will be meeting Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1:40 to 2:55. When I say we, I will be there for both the Tuesday and Thursday sessions. You will not. And so I'll discuss that a little bit further, how the logistics of that are going to work, and it's in a later chapter in this video. Let's start with the general idea of the class first. So what is this? What will we be doing in Introduction to Philosophy? Well, it's right here. It's an introduction to the main problems of philosophy, and its methods of inquiry, analysis, and criticism, including an introduction to the history, theories, and methods of reasoning. Works of important philosophers shall be read. This course is a theoretically diverse introduction to the study of ideas, including arguments and investigations about abstract and real phenomena, particularly in the areas of epistemology, metaphysics, history of philosophy, philosophy of science, and the philosophy of religion. The basis for this inquiry is drawn from history, theories, and the application thereof, methods of reasoning, and this endeavor shall be carried forward to more recent thinkers and issues. Its thematic elements are contemporary, including the nature and abiding presence of philosophizing in human discourse, and this discipline's impact on current developments in science, the humanities, and political social order in world cultures. Doing a course like this, I have the choice of, do I want to go for breadth that's shallow, or do I want to go for depth that's narrow? In my introductory courses, I make the decision to get as much breadth as possible, which means we're not going to go into too much depth in anything, but you might come into contact with some things that you weren't expecting to come into contact with, especially if you're unfamiliar with philosophy at all. There might be things discussed where you go, I know what that is. And that's the thing that I think is really interesting about philosophy. It's had a much greater influence on the world than you might expect, because I think when we conceive of philosophy often, or when I hear people talk about philosophy that are not in the philosophy world, it seems like something that is really abstract, it's really difficult, it's really challenging and obtuse, and all those things may very well be true, but nevertheless, philosophy has had a great impact on the world, and not just the Western world either. So that's one of the things that I want to get into in here, is expose that sometimes when people think of philosophy, they think of philosophy being invented in ancient Greece with the same people that invented democracy, and not entirely true. There's different philosophical traditions all around the world, often coming into contact with each other and absorbing and assimilating ideas from each other. Very similar to that dialectic between religions in the world as well. But philosophy has had a huge role in the development of the world, even if it seems a bit indirect. Even if it seems like philosophers sometimes are off doing their own thing in their ivory towers, so to speak. So it'll be about that. So we'll start at the beginning, the ancient world, about 3,000 years ago, and we'll work our way forward. So therefore, what are the expected learning outcomes of the course? What do I expect you to get out of it? Recall and identify the major thinkers, schools, core philosophical questions, terms, and concepts found in the history of ideas cross-culturally construed from ancient times to the contemporary world. Be able to recall, remember, oh, that sounds like Plato, that sounds like Aristotle, that sounds like Nagarjuna, that sounds like Dogen. And so if I refer to certain individuals and ideas, my expectation is that you will be able to recall and identify them. Do I expect you to do that immediately? No. That's a skill that I intend you to cultivate over the course of the semester. Second thing, interpret and explain core philosophical questions and concepts in terms that illustrate a comprehensive understanding thereof. Now, comprehensive understanding is not the same thing as a magisterial understanding. So what I mean by that is I want you to be able to talk about these things intelligently. Now, do I expect you to know everything about it? Absolutely not. But engage with the questions, engage with the concepts, and do your best to understand it. 3, apply core philosophical questions and concepts to contemporary issues and personal experience. Even though this is a general introduction to philosophy and not, say, ethics, this stuff matters. And so even if we're dealing with something that seems like a problem in the ancient world, people often, this is a complaint of philosophy, oh, this is what people thought hundreds of, or thousands of years ago. Who cares? Why does this matter? Because it affects you now. 4, compare and contrast related core philosophical questions and concepts and the correlative thinkers and schools with which they are commonly associated. Be able to compare and contrast and say, well, these people think this, but these people think this. Plato thinks this, but Aristotle thinks this. Kongzi thinks this, but Mozi thinks this. Finally, I expect you to justify a sound philosophical position on a topic or topics of contemporary human interest in the areas of knowledge, ethics, or human condition that integrates and logically demonstrates a synthesis in thought. What does that mean? Have a position, back it up. Have a point of view that's not raw opinion. Now, when I say raw opinion, opinions are fine. Everybody can have an opinion. An opinion is different from a sound philosophical position. So when you're writing or you want to make a philosophical point or you want to stand for a position, simply back up what you're saying. The next section here, the course learning objectives, basically just zooms in onto all the stuff I just said. So I'm going to have you look over that on your own. But it goes into a little bit more specific detail of the 5 notions I just said. So for that reason, I'm going to move forward. Now, the required text for the course are Kevin Birds' Eastern Philosophy, the Greatest Thinkers and Sages from Ancient to Modern Times, and Stephen Kahn's Classics of Western Philosophy. We will spend most of our time in the Kahn book, but the Eastern Philosophy book by Burns will help round us out a little bit, and I'll have a specific section in the course where we'll deal with some Eastern philosophy stuff and the interplay between them. There is one recommended text for the course too, which is Anthony Kenny's A New History of Western Philosophy. This gives a lot of background to the stuff that's going on in the Kahn stuff. Now, this book is not required, but it gives a lot of background and it kind of zooms in to some of the stuff that's undergirding and underlying the stuff that we'll be reading in the Kahn book. Here's the outline of the course. So I said we're going to kind of follow a historical trajectory from ancient times to the present. And this is the basic trajectory. Now, if we zoom in, there's a lot more stuff going on. We'll start off with some prolegomena. That's introductory stuff about what philosophy is. We'll go on to some ancient Greek philosophy. Then we'll go into Eastern philosophy. That's where the Burns book will come in handy. After Eastern philosophy, we'll go into medieval philosophy. So if I zoom into that, that's where we'll really be looking at a lot of Jewish philosophy, Islamic philosophy, and explicitly Christian philosophy as well. Then there's something that happens in the philosophical tradition after the Middle Ages. So there are a couple of historical trends that occur: the Renaissance, the Protestant Reformations, the Enlightenment, and all that affects the modern world. So we see modern philosophy start to develop with continental rationalism and then British empiricism and then Enlightenment thought. And we're going to follow that trajectory to the 20th century through continental philosophy and analytic philosophy. So that's the basic outline. Some of these we'll be zooming into more than others. All right, now let's get into classroom logistics. So this is a hybrid course. What that means is, as a hybrid course or a blended course, we're going to do this for this class. Students with last names that begin with A through L are going to be in person on Tuesdays, but shall not attend on Thursdays, yet shall be responsible for viewing or listening to a recording of each Thursday's class. So basically, if your last name starts with the letters A through L, you will show up on Tuesdays and you will watch or listen to Thursday's class. On the other hand, students with last names beginning with M through Z shall attend in person on Thursdays, but shall not attend on Tuesdays. You'll be responsible for viewing or listening to a recording of each Tuesday's class. So what about the weeks where there's Tuesday off or Thursday off? Well, on those weeks where there is a holiday on Tuesday or Thursday, a holiday in the sense of we have a day off, neither party is going to attend. Because I think it would be unfair. Like, oh, the Tuesday class has to show up, but the Thursday class does not, or vice versa. But you will be responsible for viewing and listening to online lectures for that week. So what I'll do on those weeks, and I have them listed here, the week of February 9th and February 11th, and the week of March 23rd and 25th, one of those days we have off. So neither team, if you will, needs to show up. You'll have some stuff that you'll need to do online where I'll be doing a recording similar to what I'm doing here that you'll look at for those weeks. Also, I'll state it here for the first week. This is your task for the week of January 11th, so the 12th and 14th, which would be our Tuesday and Thursday classes. Don't show up. Look at this. Watch this video. Be thorough with the syllabus. Check out some stuff on course content. Become familiar with the class. And if you have questions, be more than happy to answer them during this week. So that's the sense of the logistics for this class. If you have questions about that, please do not hesitate to email me. Which group am I in? When do I show up? When do I not show up? But for our purposes so far, here's what I want you to know. A through L, be there on Tuesdays. Don't show up on Thursdays, but you will be responsible for a class recording. M through Z, you will show up on Thursdays. You will not show up on Tuesdays. And this is so you never overcrowd the room with what's going on in the world right now. So that's the point. And so that's also why I'm delaying the first week. We won't show up in person because some people won't get this message on time. 1, 2, people will be signing up for the course at the last minute, not know which team I'm on. So this way you know which team you're going to be on and you know when to show up. When we show up the following week, the week of the 18th. So for the Tuesday team, I'll see you on the 19th of January. And for the Thursday team, I'll see you on the 21st. Now let's get into assignments for the class. So for this class, there are 5 assignments, 2 exams, 3 weekly analyses. This is an introductory course, so I don't want to overburden you. So here's the way the exams work. There's 1 midterm, 1 final, and I've got the dates for them in here. Now, we won't be having an in-class exam. I'm going to have all the exams be online entirely. Reason for that, I think it's logistically easier. It doesn't waste class time. Midterm, for example, is going to be due the 8th of March. It'll be a combination of, we'll say about 70 to 80% multiple choice, fill-in-the-blank questions, objective content, and about 20 to 30% essay stuff. The essays you'll have a week before. So the 8th, you'll have the essays by the 1st. You'll probably have them earlier than that. And you'll choose 2 essays. So I'll probably have a list of somewhere between 5 and 8 essay questions. You will select 2. It will not be the surprise list of questions that some professors do. I know some professors are like, oh, prepare for these 8 questions. You'll have 2 of them. Which 2 will be on the exam? Show up to find out. I'm going to give you a list of questions that you can choose from. And so you will select 2 questions and you will write on them to the best of your ability online at home. So you'll have the time to prepare for them as well. So there won't be surprise or gotcha questions. And the objective content for the course, I don't believe in gotcha questions. If it's a question on the exam, it's something that I explicitly stated in class. It's not something where you have to, get some kind of decoder ring and figure it out. I will only question the most important content that I go over. The final exam will work the exact same way at the end of the semester. It will be due, as you can see, May 3rd, 2021. Exact same format. The final exam is not cumulative per se. Of course, it references stuff that we talked about earlier, but it will only focus on the stuff that we talked about in the latter half of the semester. So midterm, final, due the 8th of March and the 3rd of May, respectively, both online. And when I say they're due that day, they're due by the end of day. So by 11:59 p.m. that night, that's when they're due online. And they'll both go live probably a week before. So you have a week to work on it kind of in your own time at home. Then you've also got these weekly analyses. So let me explain these 2. You've got 3 2-page papers to do all semester long. These are called weekly analyses. Now, whereas the exams are each worth 35% a pop, so they're pretty significant in terms of their weight, these weekly analyses are each worth 10%. So if you don't do them, the highest grade you can make is a C. So make sure you get these in. And the length of them is pretty short. And that's because I know this from experience. It can be very challenging to write a philosophy paper. So all that I want you to do for this introductory class is this. 3 of these, 3 times throughout the semester, you're going to submit what I call a weekly analysis report. And so what you do here is you take, it says roughly a week's worth of class, but it doesn't need to be a week. You don't need to pick a week. I think that's a good framework. But what you can do is you can take a topic and in 2 pages, just write about it in your own words. Here's what we talked about in class. Here's my take on it. Here's what I think. Here's what we did, and here's what I think about it. Now, whatever you're going to say, back up what you're saying. Don't just say, I think this is stupid. If you do, back up. Why do you think so? Or I think this is brilliant. I was really fascinated by this. Well, tell me more. Tell me why. But the thing I want you to focus on here is putting it in your own words. This is not a research paper. No outside sources are required whatsoever. In my upper level courses, I do have my students do more rigorous term papers, but not here. Here, what I want you to work on is articulating your analysis and explication in your own words of what you encounter. So I'm really looking for what you have to say. Now, if you use outside sources for some reason, they do need to be cited appropriately per the Chicago Manual of Style. I'll have a style guide that I'll be putting up on Blackboard as well. But what I really want to see is, what do you think about this? So don't do what I occasionally have students do. Don't go scooping stuff from Wikipedia or the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy or Britannica Online, just looking for facts to stuff your paper with. That's really not what I'm interested in. What I'm really interested in is, what do you think about this? Something that we talked about. Like, what do you think about it? If it interested you, if it made you angry, if it made you think something new, whatever it is, just tell me about it 3 times throughout the semester. And these papers are due in a systematic way. So the first one's due at the end of January. The second one's due at the end of February. The third one's due at the end of March. How long? 2-page papers. 12-point, Times New Roman, double-spaced, 1-inch margins. And there will be an exemplar on Blackboard as well. So you should know exactly what this needs to look like. And I'll have a separate video about that too. So you can watch that video and figure out, like, what should this look like? What kind of stuff should I be doing? And I'll also have on Blackboard some examples of weekly analyses that I've had from students from past years to give you a sense of, here's what you should do, here's what you shouldn't do, this is okay, that kind of thing. So you should have some familiarity with what I'm looking for in a weekly analysis. And you'll turn these in also online. These will not be turned in person or on paper. You'll submit them in their appropriate Dropbox in Blackboard. And they'll be under the Assignments tab. Next, grading policy. Nothing particularly remarkable here. Now, let me say this. At the end of the semester, when I'm calculating your final grades, if you have any decimal point of any kind, I round it up to the nearest whole number. So in other words, if you have like I know on here it says 59.9 is an F. If for some reason you have a 59.00001, you made a D. Okay? In the final analysis, you did it. Congratulations. But on these other ones, like if you have an 89.000000001, I'm rounding it up to a 90. You made an A. So that's not on particular assignments. What that is that's going to be the final grade at the end. So if you're on a decimal point, I'm going to round it up to the nearest whole number. Now that means, though, if you have a 58.0000001, sorry, you failed the class. But if whatever number that you've got at the end, if it's got a decimal of any kind, I'm rounding it up. All right, now let's get into a few policy things. So students with disabilities, if you have a physical, psychological, or learning disability which might affect your performance in this class, please contact the Office of Disability Services as soon as possible. And if you do have some disability for which you need to communicate that to me, please do so with the appropriate documentation, and we'll determine the appropriate accommodations for this hybrid version of the class, where most of the assignments are online. But if there are accommodations that need to be made, I will make them. Makeup assignments. So the exams you'll have a week to work on them at home. They'll do the 8th of March and the 5th of May, respectively. But if for some reason something happens, you're working on your exam, your internet goes out, reach out to me as best as you can. You got my office phone number. Leave me a message. Hey, I was working on my exam and everything just tapped out for some reason. I don't know what happened. Let me know. Okay, I will work with you on that. Otherwise, things are due when they're due. Exams should be turned in on time. If there are extenuating circumstances, let me know. As for the weekly analyses, I'll accept them late, but I'll take 10 points off per day. So you know when they're all due as well. So the first weekly analysis is due the 31st of January. You turn it in the 1st of February, you got a 90. You can still make an A on it. You turn it in Groundhog Day, 2nd day of February, the highest you can make is an 80. So, I mean, hypothetically, you could turn it in, I guess, February 5th and make a 50. Don't do that. Turn it in on time. But I will accept them late. But I will be deducting a 10-point penalty per day on the weekly analyses. Junior writing portfolio. Remember that the work that you produce for this class, these weekly analyses, can be used in your rising junior portfolio. For more information about that, you can go to the AZ Index on the USC Aiken homepage, or you can talk to Dr. Matthew Miller, the Writing Assessment Director. So this is under Miscellaneous Policies 1, Attendance. For those times where we're meeting in person in class, I want you to be here. If you have a health concern, you think you might be immunocompromised, you think you might have been around somebody with COVID, stay home. Stay home. Okay, it's a matter of safety. I want to take all the precautions that we can. I will be wearing a mask. I will be social distancing. Please don't get close to me when we're in the classroom. I don't mean any disrespect, or I'm not trying to be unkind, but I'm also trying to be safe, and I'm trying to vie for all our health. But if we can do it, I want you to be there in class. And if we have to move to remote learning, where if we get to a point where, like last year in spring 2020, where everybody has to go home, I want you to keep up with the course content. I'll be able to adjust. I'll be able to make it all online if we need to. And I'm prepared to do that. But I maintain that right now, the world has an extra level of complexity that I don't want to unreasonably hold you to right now. Therefore, my expectation is for you to participate. So I implore you, participate, be here, do what you need to do for this class. But I'm not going to keep an attendance grade per se. Next one, sleeping. Don't do it in class. If you're tired, I would rather you stay home and take a nap than come to class and fall asleep. Electronic devices. With the exception of those instances where exams and quizzes are administered, for this one, everything will be online, but I'm still going to put this in here anyway, just in case something happens. Electronic devices such as laptops, phones, tablets, etc. are permitted in the classroom and may be utilized for the purposes of facilitating the class. Technology doesn't bother me. Sometimes in the middle of class, I will Google something. So if you're doing that too, doesn't bother me. Just don't be rude about it. Fourth policy here, discourse and decorum. University is a wonderful domain for discussion, dialogue, and discourse. But vituperative language, which the instructor perceives to be injuriously racist, classist, ableist, homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic, or xenophobic, inter alia, shall not be tolerated and may be grounds for dismissal from the classroom. Okay, deadlines. Once established, exams and papers are due on the scheduled day specified. March 8th, May 3rd, with a late penalty of 10 points for every day for which the assignment is late for weekly analyses. So you turn a weekly analysis in a day late, it's 10 points off. 2 days late, 20 points off, and so on. Nevertheless, missing a deadline can be a stressful experience, whether it be due to a one-off timing issue, things happen, or it could be the result of something more persistent. Struggling with the course material, life circumstances, mental state, things happen, and we perceive things to happen. And the source of the trouble is not always obvious from the inside. Students in these situations often blame themselves, and the stress can simply continue to grow from there. If you find yourself in this situation, I can help. If you're going to miss a deadline, like something's coming up, you know something's due, here's what to do. Submit whatever you have before the deadline. And so doing first day's late penalty shall be halved. 10 points off, it's 5 points off. If you know, like, listen, weekly analysis, I know it's due on the 31st of January, the first one, and you say, listen, I've got a paragraph. This is what I got. Turn in what you got. And that first day's late penalty is halved. It'll only be -5. All right, we'll work on it from there. And then also maintain communication with me until you're finished. And we'll figure out a plan to help you in order to have you complete the assignment. So you and I will work on that together. Okay, so just because something's happening where you're feeling overwhelmed, you don't think you can complete the assignment, don't despair. Get in what you've got, and we'll make it work. Now let's get into academic honesty. The pressure to earn high grades and belief that a good end can justify any means whatsoever leads many students to resort to less than honest methods to acquire a desirable grade. The student is to avoid condescending into this particular quandary. The USCA Student Handbook lists cheating, lying, bribery, and plagiarism as academic dishonesty. Examples include, so I want to go into this one because I have this sometimes happen from semester to semester. Sometimes I think it's unintentional, but I want to make sure it's clear here. What constitutes academic dishonesty? 1. Giving or receiving unauthorized assistance or attempting to give or receive such assistance in connection with the performance of any academic work. Okay, you get unauthorized aid. So I say open book, but you go, you know what? This person did a quiz a couple of years ago. Let's see how similar it could be. Not a good idea. And I can recognize that, I think, more easily than some people give me credit for. 2, unauthorized use of materials or information of any type, or the unauthorized use of electronic or mechanical device in connection with the completion of any academic work. Probably not going to be an issue in here. 3, unauthorized use of any portable electronic device unless required for the course during a test period without consent of the instructor. Our exams are going to be online, so this is not going to be a problem. 4, access to the contents of any test or examination, or the purchase, sale, or theft of any test or examination prior to its administration. Somehow somebody hacks in and gets my copy of the final exam and you're using it, that's a problem. 5, use of another person's work without proper acknowledgement of source, that is, plagiarism. So sometimes plagiarism occurs because someone quotes something without designating that it's a quotation. Sometimes it's because somebody alludes to something without designating that it's an allusion. It's allusion with an A. And sometimes somebody paraphrases something without indicating that it's a paraphrase of something. So if you're going to paraphrase, allude, or quote, make sure you throw a citation in there just to be safe. And so a lot of times people mess this one up just by not being on the safe side. If you're using something that didn't come from your brain, tell me where you got it. There's no harm in that whatsoever. Just go ahead, better safe than sorry when it comes to that. 6, intentional misleading of any person in connection with any academic work, including the scheduling, completion, performance, or submission of any such work. So you're like, I'm going to do my final exam, but actually it's going to be my cousin that does it for me because they have a degree in philosophy. That would be an instance of academic dishonesty. 7, offering or giving any favor or thing of value for the purpose of influencing improperly a grade or other evaluation of a student in an academic program. So you're failing, but you go, you know what? I've got a lovely timeshare in Orlando that you can use next year. That would be an instance of academic dishonesty. So don't try and bribe me. 8, conduct intended to interfere with an instructor's ability to evaluate accurately a student's competency or performance in an academic program. Work submitted for this course that is determined to be the result of either cheating, plagiarism, or collusion will earn a 0 for that assignment and may cause the student to receive an F. If work is seen to be dishonest with any of the above criteria, it will be marked as 0 and could make you liable for getting a failing grade. So don't do it. Do the best that you can. Something's going on. Submit what you've got. It's better to do the best that you can and mess up than try and manufacture something that is a complete fabrication predicated upon a whole litany of lies. Don't do it. Let's move on to the COVID contingencies. These are particular to spring 2021. So COVID-19 related course changes. I want to make sure I go through these so that they're clear. This year, as it was the case last year, it's expected that COVID-19 or any of its other sundry mutations could pose additional challenges for students and faculty and may lead to changes in the semester schedule. However, if you are quarantined or become too ill to complete your work at her discretion, or his discretion, or my discretion, the professor may arrange for necessary accommodations, which may, depending on the circumstances and documentation, include virtual class attendance, modifications to due dates, alternative assignments, an incomplete, a medical withdrawal, etc. Should the professor become ill, her, his, their, my engagements in the course may be delayed, and or another professor may take over the course, which may result in minor or major changes to the syllabus. So just so you know, something happens to you where you have to go in quarantine, you can't come to class, I'll do whatever I can to make it work. Something hypothetically could happen to me. Here is a contingency plan that says, hey, another professor might step in to complete what I've started in here, just so you know. Mask policy. This is for obviously the days where you're coming in on either Tuesday or Thursday. If you're at home by yourself, this is not something you need to worry about. In class, a fitted mask covering the nose and the mouth, not one or the other, but both, must be worn at all times during face-to-face class meetings. So if you're with me on Tuesday, you're going to cover your face, your nose, and mouth. If you're with me on Thursday, you're going to cover your face, your nose, and mouth. If you need to remove your mask to get some fresh air or drink some water, leave the classroom. Don't just detach the mask and all of a sudden decide to chug on something. Students who come to class without a mask will need to leave immediately and can only return if wearing a mask. Students who remove their mask in the classroom space, indoor or outdoors, wear their mask incorrectly, repeatedly come to class without a mask, or otherwise engage in behavior that endangers others or violates USCA public health or safety policies will fail the class and will be reported to USC Aiken for disciplinary action. Remote instruction transition. Should USC Aiken move to all remote instruction at some point in the semester, we will do our best to continue on schedule, whereby I shall promote asynchronous YouTube video lectures for the remaining lectures of the semester. So if it comes to the point where USC Aiken says, nope, we're done, we're not doing any more in-person classes, I will be ready to transition to just doing this stuff online. So be prepared for that just in case that happens. So this is a hybrid class where if you're on the Tuesday crew, you're coming in Tuesdays, you're looking at the Thursday recording. You're coming in Thursdays, you're looking at the Tuesday recording. If it comes to be the case that we're not going to meet in person at all, I'm ready to we'll have nothing but recordings and we'll make it work. And I'll adjust the syllabus accordingly if that transpires. I will do my best to keep you informed about what's happening. So if I know something, I'll pass it along to you. You will need to do your part by checking your email at least once a day. So just to see what's going on in terms of university policies, dictums, declarations, and so forth. Additional addendum. Zooming in on some more stuff. Face coverings and hygiene requirements. In an effort to maintain the health and safety of our students, faculty, and staff, the following requirements will be implemented in this course. Students must wear a face covering. For any face-to-face meeting of the course throughout the semester, any student who does not wear a face mask upon entering will be asked to leave the classroom in order to retrieve a covering before being allowed to return. Now, some of this was in the previous section, but this is something I've been asked to include in this semester's addendum, so I'm going to include it here again, even if it seems a bit redundant. Students who have documented conditions that could be exacerbated by wearing face coverings should apply for accommodations with the Student Office of Disability Services. So if you have some reason for which you cannot wear a mask, go apply to Disability Services to tell me why you can't wear a mask. Any student who violates a face covering mandate may be referred to the Office for Student Life for Education and or disciplinary action. That's a potential penalty you could face for violating what I've said so far. Students should practice social distancing as much as possible. Even if you have masks on, stay 6 feet apart. Take your mask off, 20 feet apart. You're outside. It's not going to happen in the classroom. But in the classroom, even with masks on, stay 6 feet apart. Students should practice good hygiene by washing their hands as much as possible, following CDC hand washing protocol. So not just a little sprinkle of water on the hands. Be thorough. Use hand sanitizer when you can. Each student should use his or her own hand sanitizer or the hand sanitizer either provided in the classroom or in the hallway outside the classroom as much as possible. If a student becomes sick or feels he or she or they is becoming ill, that student should not come to campus. You're not feeling good? Stay home. The student should immediately notify the course instructor, me in this case, and seek medical assistance advice from the U of SC Aiken Student Health Center by calling 803-641-2840. Computer and communication requirements. Each student must have regular access to a computer with a video camera and microphone, and this is really just in case we have to transition to completely online. These may be required daily or only on occasion depending on the mode of instruction or the health status of the student or faculty. All students must be able to access and use Blackboard. Here's the deal. You definitely need to be able to use Blackboard, but you also should have a webcam and a microphone as well. They don't need to be top of line or anything like that. That's really just a case. Now, I'll say for our purposes, if we do transition to all remote learning, this class will be asynchronous, meaning I'll record some stuff, you watch it when you're able to. Mode of instruction. The University of South Carolina Aiken reserves the right to change, adjust, and or cancel any campus operation, including but not limited to mode of instruction, delivery of services, or use of campus facilities whenever the campus administration determines in its sole discretion that circumstances warrant the operational change. So, the university could decide that, hey, this hybrid class we're doing, nope, you're not meeting in person anymore at all. We're switching to all online. Nope, Professor Burris doesn't work here anymore. Here's another professor that's going to finish the class instead. Hypothetically, the university reserves the right to do that, and you need to be at least hypothetically prepared that that could happen, at least in spring 2021. So, in terms of introductory remarks, that concludes what I have to say about this class, Introduction to Philosophy, Spring 2021 at USC Aiken. If you have any additional questions, again, reach out to me at thomasb@usca.edu, and I look forward to answering any questions that you may have. I'll see some of you on the 19th of January. I'll see some of you on the 21st of January, depending on whether you're in the Tuesday crew or the Thursday crew. And I'll see you then. Have a good rest of your January. Until then, see you in a little bit.